There are approximately 38 trillion microorganisms living inside your body right now. Bacteria, fungi, viruses, archaea, a vast, complex, living ecosystem that outnumbers your own human cells and collectively weighs more than your brain. This is your microbiome. And for most of human history, it was considered irrelevant to everything except digestion. We now know that was wrong. Profoundly consequentially wrong. The microbiome does not just process your food. It produces neurotransmitters that affect your mood. It regulates your immune system. It influences your inflammatory response. It communicates directly with your brain through the vagus nerve. It affects your sleep, your stress response, your cognitive function, your weight, your skin, and your risk of conditions ranging from depression to autoimmune disease to neurodegenerative illness. And the state of your microbiome, its diversity, its balance, its resilience, is being systematically degraded by the way most people in the modern world eat, sleep, move, and manage stress. In this video, you are going to understand what a healthy microbiome actually looks like, what is destroying yours, and the specific 30-day protocol for rebuilding it from scratch. The first thing to understand is what microbiome diversity actually means, because diversity is the single most consistent predictor of microbiome health across every population that researchers have studied. A diverse microbiome is one that contains a wide variety of microbial species, each performing different functions, producing different compounds, and providing different forms of resilience against disruption. When diversity is high, the ecosystem is stable. Individual species can be disrupted without the whole system collapsing, because other species can compensate. When diversity is low, as it is in most people eating a standard modern diet, the ecosystem is fragile. A single dietary insult, a course of antibiotics, a period of high stress, or a disruption to sleep can tip the balance significantly and produce systemic effects that go far beyond the gut. The research comparing the microbiomes of people eating traditional whole food diets with those eating modern processed food diets consistently shows dramatic differences in diversity, with traditional diet microbiomes containing 2 to 3 times the species richness of modern diet microbiomes. That difference in diversity maps directly onto differences in immune function, inflammatory markers, mental health outcomes, and metabolic health across populations. The second thing to understand is the gut-brain axis, and specifically what your gut bacteria are doing to your brain right now. Your gut produces approximately 90% of your body's serotonin, the neurotransmitter most associated with mood regulation, emotional stability, and the sense of well-being. It produces significant amounts of GABA, the primary inhibitory neurotransmitter that reduces anxiety and promotes calm. It produces dopamine precursors. It produces short-chain fatty acids, particularly butyrate, that cross the blood-brain barrier and directly influence neuroinflammation, brain-derived neurotrophic factor production, and the health of the myelin sheaths that insulate your neural pathways. The bacteria in your gut are not passive passengers. They are active participants in your neurological functioning. When they are diverse and thriving, they produce the compounds your brain needs to regulate mood, manage stress, and maintain cognitive function. When they are depleted and dysbiotic, when the balance has shifted toward pathogenic species and away from beneficial ones, the neurological consequences are measurable and significant. The research connecting gut dysbiosis to depression, anxiety, brain fog, and cognitive decline is now substantial enough that the gut-brain connection is considered one of the most important frontiers in mental health research. So what is destroying your microbiome? The research consistently identifies the same cluster of factors. Ultra-processed foods, which constitute more than half the caloric intake of the average person in developed countries, are particularly damaging because they contain emulsifiers, artificial sweeteners, and preservatives that directly alter the composition and function of the gut microbiome. Emulsifiers, found in almost every packaged food, disrupt the mucus layer that lines the intestinal wall and protects the beneficial bacteria living within it, creating the conditions for increased intestinal permeability and systemic inflammation. Artificial sweeteners, particularly saccharin, sucralose, and aspartame, alter the glucose metabolism of gut bacteria in ways that paradoxically increase blood glucose dysregulation. Low dietary fiber, the single most important nutritional input for microbiome diversity, starves the beneficial bacteria that ferment fiber into the short-chain fatty acids your gut lining and your brain both depend on. Antibiotics, which are essential tools when genuinely needed, have collateral effects on the microbiome that can persist for months or years after the course is complete. Chronic stress, through cortisol's effects on gut motility, intestinal permeability, and the composition of the microbial community, degrades microbiome health in ways that compound with every other stressor. And insufficient sleep, particularly the disruption of the gut's own circadian rhythm, which operates semi-independently of the master clock, produces microbiome changes that research is increasingly connecting to metabolic dysfunction, immune dysregulation, and mood disturbance. The 30-day microbiome reset protocol is built on 6 specific inputs that the research consistently identifies as the most powerful drivers of microbiome restoration. The first and most important is dietary fiber diversity. Not just quantity, though quantity matters, but diversity. Different bacterial species ferment different types of fiber, which means that eating a wide variety of plant foods feeds a wide variety of bacterial communities. The target that research supports is 30 different plant foods per week, not 30 servings of the same plants but 30 different species, including vegetables, fruits, legumes, whole grains, nuts, seeds, and herbs. This number is achievable and the research on it is remarkable. People who consistently hit 30 plant foods per week show measurably greater microbiome diversity than people eating fewer varieties, even when total fiber intake is similar. The second input is fermented foods. Research consistently shows that fermented foods, yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, kombucha, miso, tempeh, directly increase microbiome diversity and reduce inflammatory markers even when consumed in modest amounts. The mechanism involves both the introduction of live microbial cultures and the production of bioactive compounds during fermentation that support gut lining integrity and modulate immune function. The third input is the elimination or significant reduction of ultra-processed foods, not because of their caloric content, but because of their specific microbiome-disrupting additives. The fourth is prebiotic foods, foods that specifically feed and support beneficial bacterial species. These include garlic, onions, leeks, asparagus, bananas, oats, apples, and Jerusalem artichokes, all rich in the prebiotic fibers that beneficial bacteria preferentially ferment. The fifth input is polyphenol-rich foods, the colorful plant compounds found in berries, dark chocolate, green tea, olive oil, and red wine that research shows act as selective prebiotics, preferentially feeding beneficial bacterial species while suppressing pathogenic ones. And the sixth input is the reduction of the lifestyle factors that degrade microbiome health, chronic stress, insufficient sleep, and sedentary behavior, all of which directly affect gut bacterial composition and should be addressed in parallel with the dietary protocol rather than sequentially. The microbiome reset does not happen in isolation. It happens as part of the integrated lifestyle approach that this entire series has been building toward. What can you realistically expect in 30 days of consistent implementation? Research on dietary interventions for microbiome restoration shows that significant changes in bacterial composition can occur within 2 weeks of dietary change, and that 30 days of consistent intervention produces measurable improvements in microbiome diversity, inflammatory markers, intestinal permeability, and reported well-being outcomes. People commonly report improvements in digestive comfort, mood stability, energy levels, skin clarity, immune resilience, and cognitive function within the first month. These are not placebo effects. They are the downstream consequences of a gut ecosystem that is beginning to produce the compounds. The short-chain fatty acids, the neurotransmitter precursors, the anti-inflammatory signals that every other system in your body depends on. The gut is not just where food goes. It is where health begins. And rebuilding it is not a supplement protocol or a cleanse. It is a 30-day commitment to feeding the ecosystem that feeds you back. If you made it to the end of this video, your gut bacteria are listening. Literally, every meal you eat in the next 30 days is either feeding the ecosystem that supports your mood, your immunity, your cognition, and your long-term health, or depleting it. Start today with one meal that adds variety. One fermented food. One prebiotic vegetable. That single shift, repeated consistently across 30 days, begins to rebuild the microbial foundation that everything else depends on. Share this video with someone who struggles with mood, energy, immunity, or digestive health without a clear explanation, because the explanation may be living in their gut. Subscribe to continue this journey, because the next video is going to take us somewhere that science and soul intersect in a way we have never explored in the series before: the spiritual void, why achievement without meaning always feels empty, what the research says about the human need for transcendence, and how to build a life that is not just healthy and productive but genuinely sacred. See you there.